Hello, my good friends in the arts and academic fraternity. Hope you're having an interesting academic exercise in terms of aesthetics. Yes, in our last lesson, we looked at some of the ways, or if you like, approaches to art. We also tried our hands on some of the objects or artworks of our choice, and looked at how it is done, how we can write about them aesthetically. I really enjoyed your write-ups, and I know as time moves on, you're going to improve over time. That's great. Today, we're going to look at writing an academic paper through aesthetics. If you look at the exercises we've been doing, we're now looking at how we write aesthetically. And in writing aesthetically, we have to use aesthetic here as a methodology in trying to approach societal problems or artistic works, what the artist intends to put across, your feelings, your emotion towards the work, and how does the statement the artist or the message the artist want to put across carry in the work. You have to write academically, on that regard or in that regard. As a result, today we're going to spend time to look at a very brief lecture on how to write an academic paper through aesthetics. To start with, let's look at how three different writers approach a work, or if you like, wrote aesthetically about a statue, a wood carving located at the Senior Staff Clubhouse, that's SEMSA, at the University of Education, Winneba. That's closer to the Student Center. Let's look at how the writers approach their works. One of the writers' description is what I'm going to read out. He wrote Odro's Sculpture as the title. Out of an abandoned log of wood, Odro creates a near 7 feet tall, suggestive carving, intriguingly composed of 7 human figures, an enraged snake, and a host of Ghanaian percussion instruments. Wearing a compendium of realistic visual expressions, the intermingled figures are posed in a wide array of striking postures that suggest joyous moves. There is baubles over sheep, bejeweled, bare-chested, lactating mother in headscarf in the process of pumping one of the succulent breasts into the eager mouth of her baby. Close to her is a thrilled-looking male figure in a dancing disposition. Swift linear line design patterns suggest the swelling of a dancing body movement. The left hand holds a young-looking bearded female figure, which is wearing a flashy coiffure and an alluring smile. The postures, the costuming, the expressive faces of the dancers, and the musicians deftly exposed in contrasting textures add interest and heighten the Africanness of the figures in the composition. Odro uses stylized contours and the natural features of the wood in creating lyrical designs in the clothing of the figures and the musical accoutrements, partially embossed with Edinkra motifs to demarcate the smooth surface planes. The stance of the figures and their placements on the basement substantially contribute to the success of the group composition. The composition reveals the artist's skillful use of spatial relationships in forming hollows, which forces a full three-dimensional appreciation of the entire sculpture. The interplay of both negative and positive spacing creates dramatic casts of physical chiaroscuro on the work. Embellished in an antique finish, the work shows the features, venial and other arboreal characteristic features. The portrayal of the figures in ecstasy and the sharp placement of the serpents with wide open mouths, though firmly gripped, invites elements of vitality and spontaneity. This masterpiece, located at SEMSA Clubhouse of the University of Education, Winneba, centers its theme on the multiplicity of tensions and deplorable inconstancy of fortune that life has to offer humankind. It could be titled "This Word of Ours." This is the write-up of one of the authors. Let's look at another author's expression of the same work. The title of this is Review of Odro's Sculpture. The untitled work is a realistic freestanding sculpture executed in 2011 by Odro, and it is located at the Staff Canteen, University of Education, Winneba North Campus. The medium is aesthetically manipulated in a carefully organized but complex manner to depict a multifaceted gender-based activity, characteristics of Ghanaian cultural lifestyle. An effective interplay of elements and principles of art in combining positive and negative spacing creates harmony in the composition. There is joyous atmosphere implied through the incorporation of decorative motifs of Ghanaian totems and symbols, which serve as guides to the appreciation of the subject matter. The apparent two marks create impressive texture, which impact positively on the aesthetic qualities of the work. The artist's ability to use tools to manipulate the natural definitions and dictates of his medium to highlight the intrinsic beauty is a clear manifestation of technical competence and artistic skills. This well-executed sculpture has an authoritative presence. Now let's look at the third write-up of the same work. The title of this one is Unveiling the Talent of Odro, the Young Sculptor. It reads, on the veranda of the Senior Members and Staff Association Clubhouse at the North Campus of the University of Education, Winneba, is a carving in the round produced by Odro, an undergraduate art education student. It measures about 9 by 5 by 4 feet. The work is a composition depicting mixed-sex adult figures with distinct African features, playing a variety of African musical instruments. A figure of a male baby is seen affectionately sucking a mother's large, juicy-looking breast. Aside the human figures stands another male figure holding a staff surmounted by a totem-like snake motif. The classic elongation of the figures creates flexibility, movement, and a paradox of abstract realism, the skillful manipulation of tools to create varying sizes of wholes and reliefs to achieve solidity and distinction between the figures and the objects is evidence in the artist's proficiency and high sense of creativity. Likewise, the depiction of the smock-like costume of the male figures, which are featured in intricate strips of parallel lines and curvilinear lines, indicate the artist's meticulous yet radical approach to his work. In order to emphasize the underlying Africanness in the composition, the artist again skillfully has exaggerated the earrings, the neck, and the long braided coiffures of the female figures. In fact, the complexity that characterizes the imagery and the overall appearance of the work can generate inevitable curiosity, a lively dialogue, and intelligent interpretation in any observer. Undeniably, the work is a perfect display of craftsmanship and professionalism, and therefore a masterpiece. I rate it an A. This is another expression done on the same work by a different author. With these examples, we could infer that we have different ways of approaching artworks or writing about art aesthetically. Remember that in writing about the work, we are duty-bound to look at the aesthetic theories, namely emotionalism, imitationalism, formalism, and the African concept of aesthetics in trying to do, a diligent aesthetic discourse on the work. Let's make progress to look at a different write-up on the artwork we see on the screen. This is a response of a writer to the work we see on the screen. This work, the title is Barber Hair Panel. Barber Hair Panel. Hair identity stereotyping remains a sensitive subject matter in African fashion history due to issues of racial discrimination against black hair. Historically, the discrimination resulted in black women hiding their hair using coverings, especially in public places. There has been a counter-resistance to the stereotyping of Afrocentric hairstyling through civil rights movement and visual representation or presentation by its practitioners and artists. This article analyzes the selected Afrocentric natural feminine hairstyles featured in the painting of a Togolese artist and how the painting contributes to the documentation of past hairstyling practices of Africa. Catching a glimpse of a feminine hairstyle representation or presentation in a row on a single support brings to memory the Barber Salon promotional campaign artworks that served as visual display to invite potential customers in parts of Africa in the past. Artists in the community were commissioned to create picturesque signages that display plethora of Afrocentric hairstyle on wooden boards and placed in front of hair salons or vantage point to attract potential clients. The artwork served as a form of advertisement to the salon operators. Some itinerant hairstylists moved around with these signages in search of customers. The painted images have been placed with printed catalog of pictured hairstyle printed on large sheets of papers and flexing material, which are displayed in and outside salons in the communities in Africa and in Ghana and Togo, to be specific. The picturesque hairstyle signage presented in this exhibition reminisces the artistic practices of creating these portraits as form of hair salon advertisements in Togo, Ghana, Nigeria, and other West African countries. Uniformly arranged on a support, the artist presents 15 Afrocentric feminine flashy plaited coiffures in portrait orientation. Of the 15 hairstyles, one occupies the epicentral position of the entire composition in frontality of pose, depicting her full facial details in a simple flat tone of brownish colors with the hair stylization rendered in black. Her rigged neck, pronounced eyebrow, and bejeweled ears depict her feminine characteristics. In Togolese culture, wearing of earrings is a preserve of females, as in the case of Ghana and some West African countries. The artist's treatment of this central place figure gives hint of Togolese feminine beauty standards. 4 of the hairstyles are shown in side view facing the left. Similar to these 4 figures in profile are the type-form head, rigged neck details, and varying earrings. The rigged neck features found on these 4 figures also appear on the central place figure in the composition. With this treatment, the artist makes visual notation of feminine beauty culture standards that characterize some West African countries. Rigged neck feature is considered as a marker of beauty ideal and commonly depicted in West African feminine sculptures. For example, Equiaba of Ghana is often armored with rigged neck characteristics. Understanding the beauty culture ideals of Africa depicted in this simple but interesting hairstyle composition offers viewers of African art a better understanding of the art. To reveal a great deal of the level of sophistication of the hairstylization, the artist showed 10 of the figures in back view postures, 3 each atop and down in horizontal placement, while 4 are arranged in kite-shaped arrangement in the middle portions of the painting. The artist generates visual interest with the arrangement of the figures to create a sense of movement, variety, and rhythm. For example, in the depiction of the clothing of the figures, shades of red were used in a serpentine orderliness that forces the eye to traverse gracefully upon a gaze from the topmost middle part to the down and vice versa. Similar color treatment is achieved with shades of blue from the top, moving in diagonal direction to far right of the middle portion of the painting, and orchestrating another diagonal turn towards the down left part. One striking feature that bedills the 10 hairstyles in back view posture is the skillful use of the negative and positive spatial relations that create visual curiosity for deeper gaze of the hairstyle. With the exception of the blue shirted figure, on the last row of the composition, the remaining blue shirted figures were trumpet-shaped hairstyle with multi-sectional visual interest. All the hairstyles represented by the artists are a reflection of the Afrocentric standardized beauty ideologies and practices inherent in the social environment of practice. These hairstyles make use of no hair extensions and or wigs, and are also depicted in Ghana and other neighboring countries. Females usually care for their hair to grow long and plait it with black twine to form long, narrow strips, which are then arranged in a particular manner by way of styling. Based on the society that wear them, the hairstyle may be given names which have symbolic meanings. The hairstyle portrayed are usually worn by the youthful and middle-aged females. Colonialist invasion, slavery, Western religion, racial discrimination, among others, contributed to black hair stereotyping, which has caused some black women to resort to hair beauty ideals of the colonialists. Historically, the discrimination resulted in some black women who found themselves in foreign lands hiding their hair by using coverings, especially in public places. Some black women use artificial chemicals to straighten their hair to imitate the beauty ideals of the colonialists. Despite the counter-resistance to the stereotyping of Afrocentric hairstyling through civil rights movement and visual representation or presentation by its practitioners and artists, many African women now wear hair extensions and wigs, a trend that raises the question of identity crisis and politics. The work of the artists in this context sheds light on the purely Afrocentric hairstyling culture of Togo and its neighboring countries, and makes unapologetic statements of turning away the colonialist past. The work brings into focus the need for fashion art educators and artists to join hands in contributing to institutional restructuring of teaching and learning of African fashion history, including standardized beauty ideologies and ideals for reclamation of the past, and impertinent practice of Afrocentric beauty culture. Towards this end, teaching and learning should be focused on African cultural reorientation, concept of Sankophoism, and a respect for one another, irrespective of geographical, skin color, hair type, or physique. Learners must be taught to build positive self-esteem and love for their culture and demonstrate love for individual differences. Yeah, in this write-up, the author tried to raise issues that the painting, or if you like, the artwork reveals, and move in to do a thick description of what is seen on the panel that we see. This is an attempt by the writer to bring out issues using aesthetic here as a methodology to drum home the issues revealed by the work. Remember that in writing, you have to pay attention to the aesthetic theories in trying to raise the issues. These and other examples have been given on the V class for your perusal. The links have been given. Follow the links and read the write-ups that come with them. On that note, take the assignments that appear on the V class. Let's try our hands on this. Thank you so much for your attention. Let's meet in our next time. Bye.